Hello everyone! So this week I'm not really up to anything specific. I'm kind of just messing around and kind of creating whatever I feel like. And I thought it might be a somewhat interesting possible week to start studio vlogging again because it has been months since I have actually managed to consistently make studio vlogs, so I'm super out of the habit of it, but I do miss it and I definitely want to get back into making studio vlogs more frequent because I know you guys really like them. So yeah, I guess we'll just see what I get up to this week. I guess first off, hopefully the audio in that last clip was okay. I'm trying out something new in the kind of hiatus of studio vlogs. I bought and kind of made this soundproof door thing. Like, basically the point of this is right now my 3D printer is going and I haven't actually tried this soundproofing curtain out yet, and I was filming like right here, so hopefully you can't really hear the 3D printer. These are the new like soundproof, I think they call them soundproof panels from IKEA. They're these circles that you kind of configure to be however you want. Here, I'll back up so you can actually see this. So they're like hanging like a curtain would, and it just kind of creates this door, and they're basically like felt and they're padded, and yeah, they are like pretty ingenious soundproofing, but like I said, I hadn't actually tried, like they're pretty new that I installed them, so I hadn't actually tried them out with the 3D printer, and I do think it's helping. Like right here, you might be able to hear it more because obviously I'm like right beside the door. As you can see in there, it is going, but yeah, I think they are working. Obviously my 3D printer is pretty quiet on its own, but as of like before I had that, I wouldn't feel comfortable like doing voiceovers or any kind of talking video with the 3D printer running. And it's not like the end of the world, but obviously if I'm printing like a really long print, it could like start messing up my schedule, and I just didn't want to start using like the 3D printer running as like an excuse of why I wouldn't be working on certain types of content or whatever. But yeah, so like over here, like obviously where I record voiceovers, you can almost not hear it, and I don't think my mic would pick it up, but we're going to see kind of the audio of what it picks up even in this vlog and stuff. But yeah, so that's like the latest addition to the studio. So like I said at the beginning, I'm not actually up to anything specific this week. I'm just kind of gonna make what I feel like and see what kind of videos I can create with that. But one thing that I have been planning on trying out for a while now is this watercolor journal, sketchbook, whatever you'd want to call it. I bought this kind of in the height of costume building, just because I'd finished my moleskin and I had heard good things about this particular watercolor journal, and I wanted to try it out. But I've now had this in my possession for a couple of months and I haven't actually tried it, so I think that's what I'm gonna do first. I will say, just first impressions of this journal, I do really like how the paper is feeling. It's definitely thicker and more like watercolor paper feeling than a lot of watercolor journals have. I know one that I've been using semi-frequently is the Travelogue watercolor journal, but to me that's more of like a mixed media paper. It's definitely not as thick as this. Yeah, as you can see, it's 140 pound and 300 GSM, which is pretty standard watercolor paper, like definitely for like the more student grade, which is what I am using 90% of the time anyway. It's not cotton as far as I can tell, no. Probably not cotton paper, but just like I said, first impressions, it does feel really nice. It has a pretty nice texture to it as well. It is a cold pressed watercolor paper, which is, you know, the more standard of the watercolor papers. But yeah, so I'm gonna try this out and see how it goes. So there's actually quite a long time between the last clip and then actually creating this painting. I was just having a super chilled out Friday night listening to some music, and I don't know, I guess, you know, I just really felt like painting something. So I drew this up and painted it at like 11 to like 1 in the morning. It was a great night. But for this painting I just used some watercolor and then eventually a bit of fine liner and my my favorite white gel pen. But I'm going to stop with the commentary here and just leave you to see this nice chilled out painting session. So it has been a couple of days since I've last studio vlogged, and I have no clue what started this tangent, but for some reason I have become determined to attempt to create a marble effect in watercolor, and basically I wanted to just try it as like a background thing in the watercolor journal. And I looked up a tutorial on YouTube and I couldn't really find one, and so now I'm like determined to create like a technique of how to like actually accurately create like a marble effect with watercolor, because normally marbling is not done in watercolor. You know, you could easily create a marble effect with like pour painting and stuff in 5 seconds, but watercolor clearly is a little more difficult, as these are my mega fails. Like, these are awful. This one was slightly better, but I'm still gonna play around and see if I can get something down that is actually successful, and then probably create a tutorial on it, because this just kind of doesn't exist. For the next one, I'm actually going to try it in this acrylic ink. It's another item that I've had for a couple of months now and haven't had a chance to use, and it's this really cool like bronze color, so I think it will create some interesting marble effects. And here is how the acrylic ink looks. I don't hate it. I also don't love it. It's just kind of missed the mark. But the good news is that I think I have finally figured out a successful way of doing this. Of course, I have done a really shoddy job of one in my watercolor journal, which I will just put the speed paint at the end because it's been drying in between doing all of these, and so I'll just put that at the very end, but that was kind of done in between and all of that of figuring out how to actually successfully create this. But yeah, that is the third test, which is definitely the best by far, but I think the next one will actually be the successful test and tutorial. And fourth time is a charm, I guess. I am super happy with how this turned out. By the time this studio vlog is up, this tutorial will be out. I actually think I'm gonna try and get this tutorial up for tomorrow, so I need to voice over everything and edit that. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. It is dumbed down to a fairly foolproof technique, which is awesome. I'm super glad that I could actually figure this out because the other tests were marginal at best. Also, in case you're wondering, the entire thing is done in the Winsor & Newton Professional color in neutral tint, which is one of my favorite grays. It's this really cool, of course the camera's probably not going to pick it up accurately, but it's this really interesting purpley, warm gray color. It's really unique. But yeah, that is all done in just the one color. So here are how the two test paintings turned out. So I guess some final thoughts on this sketchbook. I do really like the paper. This one, I'm not sure if you will be able to tell from the footage, but I didn't actually tape the edges of this one down. I kind of just wanted to see how much the paper would buckle, which obviously I'm normally taping or at the very least clipping with one of these big drawing clips. The paper down to the edges to minimize the warping, but overall this did handle the watercolor pretty well. Obviously there was definitely certain areas that ended up having more watercolor, and as far as the paper goes, it actually reacts very similarly to cotton paper. I recently became pretty obsessed with I don't know where the sketchbook is. I recently became really obsessed with this particular type of cotton watercolor paper, which is going to be terrible for my wallet. But I do have a sketchbook of it. It's one I showed in a haul video a few months ago. But I hadn't used cotton paper in years, and my first kind of experience with it those years ago was not a very positive one, and so I'd never really been bothered with using cotton paper in between the two times, but I got really suckered into this sketchbook that I have mentioned in the haul video, and I used it, and I am really in love with it. The watercolor just blends fantastically on it, and this particular paper does a very similar job of being able to lift the color and blend it in very well, and it also just has really, really nice texture. So yeah, I'm really impressed with this sketchbook. And then this page, which is obviously the semi-failed marble design, and then I just added the little doodles of the metallic ink to just kind of give it an interesting look, you know, nothing fancy, just kind of, you know, working my hand, working on straight lines, all of that kind of stuff, but I do think it looks cool. But this page I did tape down, and this had a much more significant, this had like a very significant amount of water, honestly, from just trying to lift the color and all the things that I did to this, and the page itself is really pretty flat, honestly. So that is very impressive. I'm not sure how well you'll be able to tell between the two. Obviously that one wasn't taped and there was a lot less water, and this one was, and yeah, very impressed with how this paper is handling watercolor. So that's kind of my quick review of the Strathmore 400 series art journal. So far, so good, and I'm sure I will be using this for many months to come. That's actually going to be where I end this studio vlog. I'm sure I've been rambling way too much about this sketchbook and the trials and tribulations of the marble, but let me know if you like these kind of lower key reviews of different products that I just kind of try out throughout the week in these studio vlogs. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.